For the listening audience, my name is Tarnun Nubuhu Nupu, and I also am a member of the Ethiopian race and a practitioner of the science or philosophy called Moon Science. And this is a introductory explanation of the Nodiac and Zodiac based upon the writings of Afro Unu and expounded more creatively by Anu, the Noon Nupu. All right, go ahead. So go ahead and start how you would, introduction wise.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start by, introducing myself. My name is Nup, the Noon Nupu, and I'm a member of the Ethiopian race, and this creation is called the Nodiac, and it's the combination of the Nodiac and the Zodiac, but this in particular is called the Noon Noble School. So when you say the name, it's Noon Noble School, and that's basically an offshoot from book 3, where Afro Unu was explaining what the positive brain loops are and composition. So basically, Noon Noble School means God of the cosmos. It's like if you go into book 3, you'll see that Noon Binuzum means God of the gods. So basically, and the last word in Noble School, the word scoop means mat circle of order. So not to confuse anyone to think that these words just come out of nowhere. Basically, the ending word means scoop, which is SCOO, which is mat circle of order. Because we know that these stars are in orderly form, even though we are in a basically right now chaotic form of nature. It's not in the mat circle of disorder where everything is in a dust-like hazy formation. So the stars are basically, in the format that it is supposed to be in revolving where they're supposed to be in the universe, because everything is where it's supposed to be right now, especially at this time of existence. So that's just dealing with the name and understanding the name, Noon Noble School, and where it comes from and how I came up with the name.
Just for the listening audience, where does the calendar start from, and why did you start it from that particular point, and then we can go from there. I think that's a good.
All right, that's a really, really good question, because when I first when the reasoning actually came to me when I was looking at the Zodiac and the Nodiac, and basically pondering on what we would call heavy reasoning, because we have to understand in the Ethiopian race that everything that we do comes from reason. And not to go off topic or go off course, but I want people to understand that this intelligent design and this intelligent creation was not done out of thin air. This was me basically, one of my many days that I sat down and, some people call it meditation, some people call it, different things they call it. But for me, I call this heavy reasoning, meaning that I put in a great deal of studying Noon science to the point where it helped me to, gain some answers into some of the things that we see that's taking place today. So now we can go into the calendar. This just didn't happen overnight. This is something that's been reasoned on for a while. One day I was, I was reasoning, and I was trying to figure out exactly what correlation does the Zodiac and the Zodiac play. I said to myself, let me look at some of the constellations, how they look and things like that. And then I believe I was looking at the lung Nodiac, which is the Cancer Nodiac, and I said, whoa, that looks just like a lung. Then I looked at the Gemini. I said, you know what? This is definitely like people with skeletal systems and things like that. And then it dawned upon me to try to, basically put the pieces of the puzzle together, because that's exactly what it is. You're putting a piece of a puzzle together, and lo and behold, or basically, with high reasoning, not lo and behold, but with high reasoning, I saw that these constellations or these astrological signs really matched up with the human body. A lot of times people don't understand that the human form, this is the form that the gods usually depict themselves. When they personify things, the highest form, I believe, is sorry, I didn't mean to use the word believe, but because believe means to be of ignorant. But in the nature of nature, the god Amun or Hamun basically came into human form, and this is the favorite form of the god, or what we would call, these brain gods, or basically atoms, or electrons. These are what are called brain, because these things basically magically come together and they form different things based upon what cycle and season are in at that point in time. So the favorite form of brain gods are basically the human form. A lot of times people think that an animal is the favorite form, or any other thing might be the favorite form, but the most intelligent form of life is the human form, and the most intelligent human life form is the Ethiopian race with kinky hair. So now we're looking at the body parts when we look at the Nodiac and the Zodiac. So we have to understand that in history, there were philosophers of different races that would progenerate basically, what their science entails. So they have, you'll have Socrates, Plato, these different philosophers that basically push a science for their culture and their race forward. So we as Ethiopian or African people need to understand that our culture is not based upon confusion. It's based upon things actually linking and coming together. And one of the main things about African spirituality is that we understood that everything is connected, just like a body part, just like our bodies are connected. Your skull is connected to your neck is connected to your shoulders, and so on and so forth. So we have to understand that in nature, things run concurrent, the same exact way. They run the same exact way, where everything is basically running with each other, just like a human body. So this is what Afro-Unu saw, and this is what I saw exactly when I started to do a little bit more research into what's taking place. So that's just a small introduction as to where I got that from.
Let me interject real quick. I wanted to add on to the form and Hammond has spoken of in the introduction to the Nature Book 2, number 163, pages 120 and 121, and it says, "Listen to reason. The human form is the favorite form of the god Hu, Hu, the ancient god of utterance. Therefore, the human figure is that of the pygmy gods and goddesses of the top half of the smart circle of order during the time that the top half exists. Hence, peoples and apes basically evolved away from the human form, which is somewhat round-like figure, toward a lesser figure, which is a straight or wavy line. In other words, evolution of persons, apes, and things is not toward the human and round form, but toward the serpent form. The word human is a variant of the word Hamun, Hamun, is a variant of the word Amun, also called Amun and Amen. The ancient god Amun was also shown in a form similar to those of the flesh and blood gods of the top half of the order circle. Hence we get the word human or Hamun and the figure human. The name Hu is another name for the god Amun or Hamun. Human beings had to be evolving from one form and toward another. We indeed were evolving from the human form, the pygmy gods and goddesses form, toward the serpent form, and we humans would develop tails like other animals if we were to evolve much further in time. Animals have tails resembling the serpent because they are modified forms of the serpent, physically and also spiritually. Of course, the tails of animals are beneficial to them as insect repellents, balancing factors, and protective covers for their rectums and so on. Wherever possible during evolution, all persons and things evolve toward the straight and wavy lines, just as all persons and things during revolution, wherever possible, must revolve toward the oval and round lines as the revolution cycle progresses. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. So I just wanted to add that in so they can know that that was indeed based off of what was laid down in the Nature book 2, and that's not something you pull from another place to try to create something out of it.
And what's amazing about what you just brought up is that the fact that he was saying that if we were to keep basically evolving further, we would start growing tails, like animals. But just because the high reasoning was there and revolution is here, and this was to let us know that we are not evolving more with the Zodiac. We are now revolving now to the Nodiac, which is more of the human form. So basically right now, since we're in revolution, most of us are now revolving towards the more human form and mentality, because with revolution comes more of a stronger mentality of a human being, not an animal. Because if you look at the conditions and where we're living at today, at 3 South, we'll understand that there's a lot of animalistic things taking place. People are now, working in their low reasoning state. They don't know how to solve problems. They're basically, fighting and killing each other and doing a bunch of, heinous activities towards each other and heinous activities towards animals, heinous activities even to themselves. So now we have to get away from the animal form and get back into the human form, and understanding this will understand that the cosmos itself is in a human form in various constellations, which come together to form one whole body. You as a human being is one whole body, but we are all bodies within one body. And the universe is a part of a body, which is the entire nature itself. Because nature itself is one whole organism, which has 3 different parts, which consist of space, matter, and time. But even each individual has parts of itself, and everybody is a part of that whole. I don't want to confuse anyone, but I hope that makes sense, that we are part of the whole. Just like our solar system is part of the whole, just like our universe is part of the whole, and that one whole thing is almighty nature, which is all space, all matter, and all time. So that part right there, I just wanted to let everybody know that we are in the revolutionary cycle, and this is taking place ever since 1962, and the Nodiac is basically a sign that we are headed back towards the human form and to be acting and doing the activities that human beings are supposed to do, instead of getting more and more like serpents and start growing tails and things like that. We're evolving, but now that we're revolving, activities are reversing, and the Zodiac is one of those things that are showing that we are revolving in mind and going back to the human form.
So, even though it's still going to be a lot for them, because I know he speaks about this, they definitely going to have to get a copy of, I think it's Zodiac. He speaks about that in the moon set, when he draw the diagrams, and then he goes into it deeper into book 3, which Quipu Nupu has upgraded or revolved book 3, actually put in the pieces that was missing out of it. We want to go on record for that, because book 3 has been revised or revolved actually, and been put the things that were missing. So we just want to go on record for that. So make sure we get book 3 out to those who would need that, to make sure they can understand what a dude myself was speaking about as far as the Nodiac is detailed more so in Introduction to Book 3, penned by Afro Unu in 2007, but he passed before he could put it out, so his wife did the best she could and put it out in 2013, and it still had some missing diagrams or whatnot, and a couple of things needed to be cleaned up. So female Nunabu took it upon herself to finish the work, and that has been done. It's been worked on since last year, and it's been completed now, so it'll be available soon. So I guess we can go to the next thing, which the other question is, where did you start the calendar at? For those who will be getting it.
You did ask that question. I didn't get into that. I'm sorry.
Right. So where did you start it at, and why did you start it from that particular point?
All right. So I started the calendar basically from the spring season, or basically where Aries began. Now, there's one thing we have to understand, is that the positioning of the Earth played a major role in knowing where to start it from. Now, because we're on the western side of the world, we see the Aries zodiac first. If we were on the eastern side of the world, if we lived in Africa or any part of that eastern side of the world, we have to start with the Libra cycle. It's pretty ironic that even in the nature books, the cycle that starts everything all over again in the overall larger spectrum of time starts with the Libra cycle. If you go into the introduction to the nature of nature, you'll see that everything started from the Libra cycle. So this calendar basically is right and exact for this side of the globe. If we were on the other side of the globe in Africa, we would start with the Libra cycle. I don't know if that makes any type of sense, because we can't see certain zodiac constellations based upon where we are and rotating at certain points of the planet. So where we're rotating right now, we can only see basically the starting from the Aries cycle. But if we were on the other side of the planet, we would start with the Libra cycle. That's why when Apple was writing it from basically an Eastern perspective, as if he were in Africa.
Correct.
That's where everything started from. It started from Africa. The moon deals with origin. So he had to go back now and say, okay, well, everything starts with Libra as opposed to starting with Aries, because we're on the western side of the world and it's pretty backwards. But in order not to confuse everyone and have every zodiac alignment out of place, understanding that because we're on this side of the globe, we see the Aries constellation first, as opposed to the western side of the globe, we would see the Libra constellation first. So, yeah.
All right. So how did you even come to that line of reasoning that led you to even see what you were just speaking about, seeing Aries from one side and seeing Libra from another side of the planet?
Well, how did it come to me? I was actually having a conversation with Poseidon, and one of the questions it asked me was that question. And when I went back and I did some of the research, and he did some of the research as well, he said that, you know, on one side of the globe it's going to be different than the other side of the globe. Like, you have two different calendars. I said at this point in time we only can use one calendar because we're on the western side of the globe. So when we were reasoning on this particular aspect of things, I had to say, okay, we're just gonna put out one calendar. Unless we're in Africa and Africans requested the calendar, then I would have to make another calendar where Libra actually starts first, because we know that when it's summer here, it's winter over in Africa. When it's spring here, it's fall over there in Africa, in certain parts of the world. So we have to understand that these things are different on different parts of the globe. So it's not a tricky thing. It's just understanding where you are on the planet, understanding how things move, and basically putting them into perspective. So where I came to that reasoning is I did a little bit of research, and I saw that, you know, basically we are based at, you know, different points on the globe. So we're only going to see certain constellations at certain places. So in America, we're going to see Aries first, but if we're in Africa, we're going to see Libra first.
So you started there, but is this where the calendar should be started from? Because we're over here in America, is that the actual starting point of the calendar? That's what I meant to say.
No, the actual starting point of the calendar would be the Libra cycle. But in order not to confuse those viewing the calendar and those on this part of the globe, it actually starts from Aries. So because it starts from Aries on this side of the globe, it would be incumbent that it does start from Aries. Now, if we were on the other side of the globe, it would be a different story. But in the overall aspect, in almighty nature, we know things rise from east to west. Everything is when something is living, it's going from east to west. It's like the sun, going from east to west. If you look at the smash circular order, it goes from east to west. Everything starts from the east side and goes to the west side. You understand what I'm saying? So, this is why Afro made sure that the Libra cycle goes from east to west had to be what started first. If you understand what I'm saying. That, you know, I don't want to confuse anybody, but the only reason why I'm doing it this way is because of the positioning we're at on the globe. Now, if we were in Africa, we would be starting with the Libra cycle.
Alright, so we know that another smack circle will have to be created. Another Nodiac will have to be created from that point. Matter of fact, it has to be a few of them based upon the way wherever people are living out on the planet. So that right there answers all of those questions that somebody would ask.
It's a very interchangeable calendar.
Right.
So don't feel confused. And that's why I think on the calendar it says Northern Hemisphere as well. That's where we're located, in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, it's right at the top. So Now, if a person, let's say, what today is the 11th?
Correct.
Okay, so
today is the 10th.
Okay, there's the 10th, May 10th, 2017, Christian calendar time, year 55 noon Ethiopian time, and Nupu mental year 94 from 1926. So, if a person got the calendar today, and they said, okay, I want to start following it today.
Correct.
How would you help them understand
I would tell them, number one, we know that we're in the Taurus cycle. So if you look in the middle of the calendar, right after the smack circle of order that you see in the middle, you'll see the Taurus on the right side.
Yep.
Right? And right where Taurus is, you see the skeleton. And right where the skeleton is, outside of that, you'll see May. You see the May on the outside?
Yeah, on the outer skirts in gray.
Correct. So we're still in Taurus, we're still in skeleton, and we're still in May. So, right around, there's some small circles in there as well I want to explain. There's some small circles in there that's yellow and black. I don't know, do you see them?
Yeah, it's very, if I make it bigger. Yeah, just make sure you, I can see them when I bring it up real big. Cause I don't want you to lose them yet. Cause we're gonna work around to that. Cause I got a question I'm gonna line up based off of what you're saying.
So if you wanted to locate it there, you can just look on the outskirts. It says May, June, July, and the outskirts will tell you right there. It says May. I even lined out Malcolm X's birthday to represent. We're gonna get to the holidays later on, but
just the
right
basic.
there, I lined out May 1st, so that you can understand where you're at on the smack circle of order.
Right.
Or basically the calendar.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Now we're viewing that.
Calendar, there is an important fact as well. The calendar goes counterclockwise. It's not like your regular clock. Your regular clock goes clockwise, and I know people probably think it's going clockwise.
Right, great.
This calendar specifically goes counterclockwise because counterclockwise is the natural order for how things go. The planet rotates counterclockwise. Most natural disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes, if they're natural, they go counterclockwise. The Earth rotates around the sun counterclockwise. I believe 6 out of the 8 planets rotate counterclockwise around the sun. The sun rotates around the galaxy counterclockwise, and the universe itself rotates counterclockwise. So it's incumbent that counterclockwise rotation is the natural movement of how universes and all things should be moving and viewing things. So when you see and you look at something that's moving counterclockwise, it should register in the brain that this is natural movement. We've been tricked into thinking that clockwise is natural movement. This is how time is supposed to be viewed and things of that nature. But no, we have to understand that counterclockwise is actually natural movement.
Okay, now, the next phase, because when you're looking at it, now we'll get to that, the black and yellow. I think that's the color you got, or is it black and white with the balls?
It's black and white, but the white is in yellow, and the black is a little bit of white in there.
Okay, now, we'll get to that in a second. So the first thing a person notices, or that I'm noticing, you have, since we're dealing with Taurus, right, and it has, say, May 1st, and you have where a line goes in, and the part is speaking of in May, let's say for May 1st, it has week 6. So, and then before that has week 5. So can you explain the days? Because they need to understand that this is not based upon a 7-day week as we've been taught in the Western Hemisphere. So they definitely going to need an explanation on the weeks involved as far as that goes.
All right. So in Western astrology, or basically what we've been taught for a long time, is that there's 7 days of the week. But dealing with how Western astrology is basically what we've been taught and known, we know that these days of the week are basically named after after the planet. Also, these names are named after certain Roman gods as well. So, as African people, we are actually following something that has nothing to do with us per se. It's basically based upon a culture of other people. And we also know that 7 does not complete a full cycle. 9 completes a full cycle, because after 9 you start back over. There's no number higher than 9. You go from 1, you go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then after 9 it becomes 10. There's a 1 and a 0. So we have to understand that 9 represents completion. Also, it represents a beginning as well. Because from 9, you have a trickle-down effect of all numbers. If you understand what I'm saying. So 9 represents completion, and it also represents a beginning. So 9 is basically the beginning and the ending, but not the beginning and the ending in the sense of the Alpha and Omega, meaning 9 and 6. Because in book 3, Aphroum goes in on what the Alpha and the Omega. Basically, the beginning and the ending would be the 9. Everything begins and starts with 9. Alright? So, it's very important to understand that. So now the days of the week, we have to understand that even within language, a week is 2 weeks. You understand what I'm saying? We're missing components as to what's taking place. So you have to understand that now we have 9 days in what you would call a week. So a week would actually be stronger if we had 2 more days added to that. You understand what I'm saying? So it's very, it starts off, it's going to be tricky at first, but once we understand that certain things have been taken away from us and certain things were deteriorated, we have to understand that we're living in a time where things are deteriorating. So even the days of the week have been deteriorated to 7 days of the week. Maybe if long term, days of the week might go from 7 to 5, or whatever the case may be. But at this point in time, we have to have something that represents a beginning and completion. So going from 1 to 9 will be from beginning to ending, and then keep going forward and forth from there. So we have to understand that a week is 2 weeks. So, and these days of the week are based upon certain planets, and certain planets were left out. And then the moon has a day, but then we have to understand there's 8 planets and the sun. So we have to understand that Sunday can be the first day, beginning with the first day, the Sunday. The second planet would have to be Mary or Mercury, and then Venus and Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and so on and so forth. So we have to compensate for what is basically missing right now, and we have to give honor to the planets that were basically taken out from this royal order that we have in our solar system, which completes the grand system of 9. So you have our sun and his 8 wives. So we have to give honor to the sun and his 8 wives, because they are the ones that keep this solar system in order. If one of these if one of these planets was to go out of the system, it would basically throw the solar system off. So we want to make sure that honor to these planets and have them mentally understand that we acknowledge you each day, and they have a day for themselves. So this is not just something that we just put together. This is also something that we're doing mentally, and that we have to understand that, okay, today is the day of Mary, today is the day of Venus, today is the day of Ea, or whatever planet it is, and we have to give, honor to those planets, not worshiping them, but acknowledge them. Because when you don't acknowledge somebody for something, it can be repercussions for those type of things. So we have to understand and acknowledge that these planets exist, and they are the reason why we're here every day, literally. Because if one of these planets go out of sync, then the magnetism will go out of sync in the solar system. So this is one of the main reasons why we have 9 days where we don't forget about the other planets. Just name only only about 5 planets, I think, or either 5 or 6 planets.
Okay.
So we don't want to forget. Huh?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe it's only 5 because Sunday, Monday, and the rest is 5 days. Yeah, 5 planets. You only name 5 planets. There's 3 planets that's left out. And it's funny because Earth doesn't even have its own day, which is ironic.
Yeah, not in the week. They have a Earth Day celebration, but they don't have Earth in the weekday.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we're which makes a lot of sense because 7 days is week. Well, what a lot of people think, it should be less, but that's being weaker because again, we're going in the opposite kind of clockwise. And in 7 days, but you add 2 more to make it strong, which basically 7 and 2, which bring us back to the 72 million years, and and that's 9 again. And I wanted to add in also in book 3, Introduction to the Nature book 3, page 68 says, listen to sound right reason. 9 is the beginning, alpha, and 6 is the ending, omega. 6 is 9 upside down, that is to say 6 is 9 in reverse. There must be life before there can be death. Therefore 9 was before 6. In fact, 9 was before all numbers because all numbers come out of 9. Yet 9 and 6 are opposites. 9 starts the process of gestation, and gestation is the creative process which helps to develop life and forms at the beginning of organism. Life, human beings, universe of almighty nature, reason, science of the universe of absolute nature, and introduction to the nature of nature. Noon is the spiritual science of sound right reason and the reasonable words of non-reason and reality. Noon is the ethereal philosophy of all creation, and Nupu is the positive powers of original creation, figure 38 and 39, and smack circles of nature that show where quarters 1 and gestation manifest begin at point 3 south. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. So I just want to, as you continue to build on the who, what, when, why, and how, beginning of, ending of, and the purpose of, etc., I just want to, add in that all of this stuff that you're bringing forth is indeed based upon the science Noon, written by the physical philosopher and messenger of almighty nature, Afro-Unu, so nobody can try to claim, through ways of deception that you're trying to create something or make something up and blame it in places where it doesn't go. So that's just my point. I'm just adding in everything you say. I just want to bring in that is founded and based upon the science.
Correct. I know you probably have another one.
Right. So the next, right. Okay. Now that we basically understand that it's going to be a 9-day instead of a 7 day, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, for the listening audience, are you saying that 9 days be one complete Well, just explain them how your cycle. Explain to them, just for clarification purposes. We're used to having 7 days a week, which we call that a cycle. That's completion from I guess Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, so you have 7 days from one day to the next. 7 days in a week. That's a cycle. So now we're gonna add 9 days instead of 7. So are you saying that they're going to be 4, like in a month? They have basically 4 weeks in a month. So are you saying there's going to be 4 sets of 9s in a month as well?
Well, we're not going to be going by month anymore, because number one, we know that the word month is done in a lunar cycle, and we're now going by a solar cycle, because these constellations are basically the suns. And the word month, if you go to the etymology, comes from the word moon. And we're leaving the lunar cycle or the moon cycle, in which they were basing things upon a month. You understand? So now things will be going from lunar cycle to a solar cycle. Now we don't necessarily have each of the months in particular like that, because each cycle will have roughly around 40 days, and it'll be 6 days that the ancient Egyptians, our ancestors, the Ethiopian ones, called the epoch-mental cycle. So the epoch-mental cycle is basically that 5 or 6 day period. Granted, if you have a leap year or just, to account to make sure that things balance. Yeah. So in February 5th, 1962, we left the lunar and went to the solar cycle. So now we have to tell things based upon solar events, not upon lunar events. We've been following lunar culture for a very, very long time, 6,000 years to be exact. So now we have to, position ourselves into the solar cycle, which is basically getting back into the Zodiac / Nodiac. And I'm using Zodiac / Nodiac because we are still in the Zodiac cycle, or the Zupu cycle that we call in science. So we don't want to dispel the positive forces from the negative that we live in, because we are still living in negativity. So there's no such thing as pure positive. Anyone coming to you telling you that there's such a thing as pure positive is trying to deceive you. We have to understand that we have to use the positive within the negative that we have. So this is one of the things that New Science teaches, and it doesn't teach deception. It's basically pure when it comes to honesty and revealing the truth. So back to what I was saying about the lunar and the solar. So we don't necessarily have a certain amount of weeks that add up a particular solar cycle, but we do understand that it will be roughly around 40 days within each solar cycle, and we'll have about 5 or 6 days at the end, which is the epoch-mental days. Basically the days that complete the year. So this is very important for us to understand and for us to follow, because these 5 or 6 days basically lets us know that we're now entering into a new year, or entering into a new cycle. Also, one important thing that we must notice is that on this side of the hemisphere, our spring and summer days are actually longer. So we're having 5 or 6 more days in the spring and summer cycle, as opposed to the winter and fall cycle, which are exactly 90 days. apiece. So in the summer and the spring, we have 5 or 6 more days than we do, and that's one sign that we are entering the spring and summer cycle of existence in the next, in the incoming years. Not now, but about 8 to 10 years from now, we're actually in the spring cycle right now, and we're heading into the summer cycle as well in 18 billion years. But we're actually in the spring cycle right now, which is a telltale sign that our springs and our summers are longer than our winters and falls. So this is, another discovery that I figured out. So if you want to go do research yourself and you add up the days, you'll see that our springs and our summers are actually longer than our winters and falls by about 5 or 6 days. So this is one of the main reasons why we're going into a solar cycle and not a lunar cycle again. And most of the months are named after Roman gods again. January, Janus, February, March, April, May, June, July, Julius Caesar. These are things that we need to give back. We need to give back to their culture and let them know that we're following our own culture now, where we're honoring basically our constellations now. These are the constellations, like, Aries is really the bone marrow. Oh, one major thing that I forgot to mention is that through the gestation in the womb, these different body parts are actually following the same construct of how a baby grows within its mother's belly, or within the mother's womb. So the bone marrow is actually first to show up, then the skeletal system shows up, then you have the flesh, the lungs, the heart, the brain, the liver, the kidneys, the stomach, the bladder, the intestines, and the last thing to be developed is the genitals. This is why after about 4 or 5 months, that's when you're able to see the genitals in a baby. So what's very amazing about this calendar is that it also follows the same construct as how a baby is being gestated and conceived in the womb. So this is not just a calendar of just putting dates and times and zodiac signs together. This is also a calendar that follows the way a baby is growing within its mother's womb. So this calendar has many different purposes. So you're not just getting a calendar, you're getting an educational tool, especially for children, that they can look at and they can say, okay, wow, this is how, we should be taking care of ourselves. And on a year-to-year basis, we got to understand that we can also use this as a health chart. So within the time that we're in the bone marrow section, we should be taking herbs, juices, water, different health products that can help strengthen our bone marrow. Then in the next cycle, we can help strengthen our skeletal system. Then the next, our bones. Next cycle, we can help strengthen our flesh. The next cycle, we can help strengthen our lungs. Next cycle, heart, and so on and so forth. So this can also be a health chart throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, we now complete your whole body system, and you'll be reborn again. Just like a year is reborn, spring comes again, is reborn. We're reborn again because you cleanse every different part of your body, and now you are reborn again. So this is not just a calendar, this is a health manuscript that you can use. It serves many different purposes.
So it's showing it's a double meaning as well and a double usage as well. And I just wanted to go back because again we're talking about a person trying to utilize this. So how would they be again? How would they be able to utilize this while they're still in America? Because I know a person would look at it and say, okay, is 7 days here, and here is 9 days, and it's already going to be extra days. You know, should they try to fit one into the other, or how can they learn to utilize?
Well, both of the calendars are on here. So if you look at the outside, if you're still following the outside calendar, if you're still following the Caucasian calendar or the mundane calendar that everybody's using right now, you can still follow the outside of the circle. But if you're following the natural order of the calendar, you can now go one inside where it shows the brain, the liver, every single thing that you need, and then you go further inside is the Zodiac. So a person can still follow their own personal calendar, whatever it is that they're looking for, and still follow the natural calendar, because everything is lined up. Like I said, Aries is with bone marrow, and right down below it, below Aries, you'll see March, you'll see April. Right below skeleton, you'll see April and May. Right to the side of the flesh, you'll see the May and June. Where the lungs and the heart is, where Cancer Leo is, you'll see June, July, August. So you can still follow the mundane calendar and eventually we will just eradicate that outside calendar, and we'll have just an inner calendar. If you understand what I'm saying, because we won't need the mundane calendar anymore, because it's not based upon anything but lunar cycle stuff.
Yeah, it's reminding me of the smartwatch we did together. As I'm looking at it, I was trying to count the balls in here, the black and white, like from how many are these all the same numbered?
Days. Yeah, they're 365 days you represent. But we have to understand that a cycle, there's cycles within cycles. And there's, just like there's daylight in existence, there's also nighttime in existence. The daylight of existence would be the top half of existence. The nighttime in existence would be the bottom half of existence. So we have to understand that just like in the construct of things, the Caucasian basically separated days by AM and PM. But we understand that AM and PM is not necessarily cycles that we want to be going by. We want to be going by daylight and shadow hours, because we understand that there's totally different energies taking place on the planet. When there's daylight hours, when the sun is shining, animals, plants, human beings act differently when the sun is shining as opposed to when the sun is down and the moon is basically out. So this is why you see the color white and black representing daylight and representing nighttime. So there's two different cycles going on there, which equals 720 different cycles. That 72 is very important, because we understand that there's 72 million years that basically complete one cycle within our math circle of order. Then you have 72 cycles that complete 1 year. Granted, we have to add the 5 and 6 mental days, but when we go by the 360-day calendar in which the Ethiopian, Egyptian went by, and also other cultures like the Mayan culture, going to the Mayan culture, they had a calendar that was 360 days. We understand that our ancestors understood that was 720 different cycles. They called the daylight cycle Aket, and they called the night hours Duat. So the nighttime of existence is called the Duat, and the daylight of existence is called the Aket. Mm-hmm. So we have to understand that we are dealing with different cycles within existence. And we are right now in the nighttime of existence, which is called the Zodiac.
Right.
So this is also ancient Egyptian that you're also learning.
Right. Because
you understand what I'm saying? Even on a daily basis.
right, because
I know you.
right, because I had did some work on this of I don't know 2-3 years back or so when I was revolving that whole duet story, and just like the nature book says, it was you have a underworld of existence, then you had the underworld of the planets, so to speak. And yeah, we are in the duat of existence, and we've been passing through that for a while now, 18 million years to be exact. And also, they used to call when people died and they buried them, they went to the west, and but that had already occurred per se. Even though where they buried their dead was westward, it had many different implications. One being that one day, our people will be over here in the west, but also that west is where death started at, which is 6 west of existence, which is 18 million years ago, and that's what the ancients knew. Our ancestors knew that 6 west was a galactical event that took place all over almighty nature when 6 ether actually came into being, and that brought death. And a lot of them have lost that knowledge. So like you said, this is what we're doing now. We're drafting Noon into the ancient recordings to update them so people can definitely meet in the middle and we can go further. But I just wanted to make sure it's understood as far as if a person was still trying to learn it, like myself or whatnot, you still have these you have how many balls or how many cycles, because if you can count the balls, but are they supposed to represent the 720 cycles, or is this the actual account for each one?
Yeah, it represents on a smaller scale, on a yearly scale, because we understand that things like nature runs concurrent and consistent every single time. You know what I'm saying? So you have summer, spring, autumn, fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with these 4 different cycles, it runs this way each time. Every single time around, it keeps going and going and going and going and going. So on the larger spectrum, we know that there's 18 million years for each cycle, which are 4 cycles add up to 72 million years. On a smaller cycle now, we know that 90 days represents each cycle, which gives us 360 days. But on a Ethiopian, Egyptian, African level, we understand that there's 720 different cycles of daylight and shadow hour, where the sun is not shining, and the other one is where the sun is shining, and that's a cycle. But the Caucasian twisted it and told us that AM and PM basically are the 2 different cycles. No, it's basically Arquette and Duat, and this is what we have to go back to, and we have to understand that the Caucasian reversed it. So instead of the 12 p.m. And 12 a.m., now we have to understand that when the sun is setting and when the sun is rising, those are major events, not AM and PM. Their major events goes from AM to PM. There's major events also for AM and PM in our cycle, but there's our major cycle changes happen when the sun goes down and when the sun comes up. And this is verifiable upon us being more energized, especially African men per se. When the sun goes up, we become more active. When the sun hits us, we become more active. You may have done a whole night work, let's say you had a shift at work. You know what I'm saying? You're tired, you're tired as heck, and then the sun come up while you going home, but all of a sudden you got all this energy. You know, or even when you sleep overnight, some men may account for this. I don't want to take it to a sexual aspect, but when the sun comes up, some men also become a little bit more sexually aroused when the sun comes up. Mm-hmm. So these major events occur at sunlight at sunrise and at sunset. So these are tying into the African spirituality in a natural form that won't confuse the person looking at it. So we just got to get back to the natural and stop, following the unnatural.
Correct. All right. Just again, I just wanted to get a definite answer as far as the cycles that's in between each month and sign. Are these are just representations, and they're not actual. They're actual days in each lack of a better term, month. Because they have balls, but I know you said they represent cycles, but as far as days, because see, you got week, like just going into April into.
Well, you see, like some of the days, just like for instance, if you look at, let's look at the bottom where it's bone marrow, right? Then there's week 1, week 2, and week 3, right? That's 18 days. Then you go into week 4. There's 3 more days in the marrow. So that'll be 21 days. But there's no correlation within 21 days in that bone marrow cycle, in that retrospect. These days don't necessarily, fit like 7 days a week. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, you have 9 days within what's called a week, but these are not really weeks until we change the name to something else, because a week is week. So we don't want the week to represent that. I'm just using these names because this is what we're familiar with. So when the quote unquote month comes around, the month is really now the Nodiac sign or the Zodiac sign. So you have 30 days within a month, but this is not the case. We have around 20, 21 days or so in each one of these cycles, or sometimes 30 or 40 of these days in a cycle. So you got to be very, very careful on when you're switching over.
Right. So this is a point they're gonna have to see a diagram. Like this is where the visual comes in at when we actually sit down on the shows, so people can be able to see it. And you're gonna have to basically get you get your PowerPoint game up or something, or get something you can actually show, because that's going to be the next phase. Our people should be ready. A lot of them will be able to look at that and say, okay, I want to count day for day, shadow for shadow. And so, like you said, like this is just for familiar, but definitely be ready to have that next level for those who want to actually do it like that, because I think that's going to be the next thing. Because once they see this, they already automatically going to be able to see the genes in it and be okay. Now I just want to be able to go cycle to cycle, shadow to shadow, because that's definitely going to be the next stage. But that's what I'm looking at as I go over it. I know people are going to be asking that. They're going to be like, well, I want to follow what you put in here. And so those days going to have to show, like you said, once they start counting. That's why I was lining the question up based upon where would a person start. And if you look at it, they're looking at it from, week. Just for familiarity terms, week to week to week. And then you're saying, well, how many days are in this particular, let's say, we're in May now. So how many days are in May?
Well, according to this, it would be around 21, 22 22 days. If you look at it from May to June, there's about 3 weeks there. And our week is about 9 days.
So if I'm looking at week 5, week 6, week 7, then it hits.
I'm sorry, not 20. Sorry, not 21. See, I'm thinking 7 days in a week. Sorry. 9 times 3 is 27. And then you have about 3 or 4 days there, which will give you about 30, 31 days.
All right, so what are we counting from? We counting from week 5 or week 6?
Which month are you looking at now?
I'm at May. When May first starts, it's pointing to the gray.
First starts week 5.
Okay, so week 5, that's 9 days.
Now there's about three balls before you reach week 6. So you add 3, and then week 6 is 9. 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 plus 9 is 21. 21 plus another 9 will give you 30 plus, I think there's about 1 or 2 balls there, so you left with like about 32 days.
Right, because see, I'm not seeing. That's what I'm trying to see what you're seeing, so I can understand that. Because, all right, if you look at May 1st and the way you got the line pointed at right there, week 5 is on the side, but not starting what week 6 is, but it's still part of May. So how do you?
Correct.
So how do you count? How do you know those? You count those balls before getting to week 6. So I'm like, how are you able to?
Well, it all starts from week 1. You count 9 days from week 1, and then another 9 days week 2, then another 9 days week 3, then another 9 days week 4, another 9 days week 5, another 9 days, and you're going all the way around until you get up to at the top with September.
Wait.
September then.
Okay, now that's a good starting point. Okay, so now I go back to week 1. Week 1 starts where it seems to be the vernal equinox, March 20th.
Correct.
All right, so that's week 1. So for March, so we could use March 20th as a starting point.
Well, that's the start of spring.
Okay, so March 20th would be day 1.
Correct.
And you count 9 days from that, and then that'll be week 2.
Correct.
All right, now but you said something about when we get back up here to May, you said something about add 3 days. Like, how do you know some days left over?
Well, we're basically going interchangeable between, because you're asking about how many days in May. So what I'm telling you is that once you get to week 5, then you see May is actually 3 days before week 5 is up. You understand what I'm saying? So these things are not running concurrent with the Caucasian calendar.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm just trying to make sure that I want to see how you determine that, because you the one that created it or grew it from Afro Unu's black print, so you're able to look at it quicker than I am. So I'm just trying to.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just letting you know that the Caucasian calendar is not going to add up to this calendar. The only thing that's going to add up is that it's a year-to-year basis. That's the only thing that's going to add up.
I got you.
Okay.
We only
use it on a year-to-year basis. So the Caucasian year is 365 days, but it's the way that they did it. You understand what I'm saying? They gave their Roman gods names to these months. They put together these months however they want to do it, 30, 31 days, this day, whatever the case may be. But they made sure that it equals 365 days or 366 days based upon, whatever system that they used prior to that. You understand what I'm saying? All they did was now switched out and say, okay, well, we're going to give our gods some help. We're going to give Janus. We're going to give Julius Caesar. We're going to give these gods some help.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, you saying that before we get you said when you get to week 5, you saying that it's 3 days before May starts? That's what you said?
Yeah, because if you count week 5, there's 9 days in there. But if you look at May 1st, it starts within week 5 from the time that we're counting from March 20th. So we're counting 9 days from March 20th. As we're counting, and we're in the week 5 of the 9 days we're counting, May happens to fall within that week.
But the time doesn't reset, is what I'm saying. You just keep going. So 9 at this point.
Keep going 9 days. Keep going 9 days all the way around.
Okay, and okay, yeah,
right. Wherever they days fall, it may fall within. It's just like if May 1st was to fall on a Wednesday, they're counting 7 days a week. May 1st may start on a Wednesday. January 1st may start on a Saturday.
Right.
No
right. It's a marker. That's all. What I'm doing is trying to reroute my mind to be able to look at it that way, because I'm trying to stop it from making it fit in today's stuff versus the other way around, and say May 1st, like you saying, is a marker just to help us to be able to see, to go back and forth. That's what I'm doing. I'm just retooling my mind to go to, okay, May 1st is a marker. That's what I'm doing. I was just having trouble for a second to switch it back into. So I got it. It's not even that, really ain't that important, but it's just showing you where we at, because you counting, you just giving us the, basically, like you said, lack of a better term, week to start, and you just keep 9 days going all the way around. I got you.
Correct.
Okay, now this is more of a personal question, as far as if I had to ask this, I'm gonna ask this myself. Could a person add their own special days within the calendar themselves, the same way you honored Malcolm, etc.? Could a person say, have their own and say, I want this day to be my day here?
Of course. It's just like any other calendar where you want to add, whatever days that it might be your birthday. You want to add on the calendar. It's no different.
Okay, now I got another question.
I just happen to add our ancestors that basically fought by a race.
Right.
In there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I see you put African Veterans Day. Could you expound on that?
All right, African Veterans Day. Hold on. I wrote a little something on that. Hold on. I'll tell you right now. Have that on April 7th, right?
I think so, yeah. And how did you come upon that as well, to give a little backdrop on how it even led up to that?
All right, so we understand that, in America, they honor their veterans, that go to war and basically fought for this country and the quote-unquote liberties that they have in this country. But we also know that came with a price as well. And that came with the price of the African, and what it is that it didn't necessarily fall in line for our civil liberties as well. So what I decided to do is that instead of, their Veterans Day falls on November 11th. So I went basically on the opposite side of the calendar with the April 7th. April 7th is the direct opposite of November 11th. So while they're on their side of the calendar celebrating their Veterans Day, we're on the other side of the calendar basically celebrating our Veterans Day, which is basically to honor the ancestors in Africa that built the African nation up before the fall. So that would be basically kings like King Amanubi, king that built the Giza pyramid?
Khufu and his sons.
Khufu. He was the last African king that was, worth mentioning. King Khufu. Basically different African ancestors that helped build Africa before Africa fell into what it is today and where it got taken over by, Phoenician powers and eventually Caucasian powers. So that's just basically a day where we can, reflect upon these kings and queens that built Africa to where it was at, and basically where it's still standing at today as far as history is concerned, because we can still go there and still be used as history. The great structures are still there. So that Veterans Day is basically people who even predate the modern day people that have lived and passed away. We're talking about people that built up pyramids and the Sphinx and things of that nature. So that's what I meant to do as far as that's concerned. The ones that built the African nation as opposed to the veterans that built the American nation.
So you just basically went to the opposite side just strictly for that, or does April have more of a significant meaning?
Well, it has a double meaning. Everything that I do in this calendar has a double meaning. Number one is to go against those that oppress us, because we understand that their holidays are not necessarily in line with African tradition. It's more or less about colonialism and basically about the domination of one race upon the planet. So we go directly against that, and also on the opposite side of the calendar. That way, where we can manifest our energy basically within opposite. So there's a double meaning. We can honor our ancestors that basically built Africa up before the fall, and we can also generate energies that are opposite to those that are celebrating for our downfall, and basically things that are not in our nature and in line with our system.
That was a great explanation, because I just wanted to make sure we caught that. Now, let me look at this right here. I had another question. Okay, so now we got that. What about, now how did you come up with the Creative Inventors Day? Week 4 in the month of April.
Alright. So, Creative Inventors Day is basically the opposite of Thanksgiving Day. Because we know that Thanksgiving Day is a day of stealing America away from the Indians. And when you do further research, it wasn't all Indians. Africans lived on this continent prior to Indians. So the Indians actually met the Africans here and shared this land with the Africans. And then the Caucasian came here and stole this land both from the Africans that were living here and the Indians that were living here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So Thanksgiving is actually a day of stealing. So now, Creative Inventors Day is a celebration of inventions and contributions to the world, as opposed to stealing. Because when you steal something, you didn't create it, you stole it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? So Creative Inventors Day is basically inventions that you are giving and contributions to the world. And it will be a day of giving fruit, vegetables, and healthy products instead of the deadly meat eating Thanksgiving dinners. So people eat a lot of stuff at Thanksgiving that is not good for them. And they eat all the pork and the ham and things like that. It's really not good for us. So it'll be Creative Inventors Day will be a day of fruits and basically plant life. And it'll also be the 4th Sunday of April, the month after the spring starts to harvest fresh fruits and crops. Because in Thanksgiving is in the fall, where things are dying, and it represents death, stealing and death.
Right.
So we want to create something that represents life and living and contributions to the world, as opposed to stealing from cultures and things of that nature. So I also went to the other side of the calendar so that we can manifest our greatness and our positivity within our race, as opposed to perpetuating stealing and death, as far as cheating and things of that nature.
So it's basically the manifesting the laws of the opposite.
Correct.
Okay, so we're gonna make our way around the Nodiac and the Zodiac. Okay, now Malcolm X's birthday, May 19th, in week 7. Now, how did you? What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, Malcolm X was a very outspoken vocal leader, and to my knowledge, he didn't practice forgiveness and mercy, as opposed to Martin Luther King. Now, this is no disrespect to Martin Luther King, because he's a member of our race, and he should be given some sort of honor for the job that he attempted to do for the African race. This is not to take anything away from him, and this is not to put him down. But we know that when the Caucasian celebrates something, and he gives the celebration to the African, it's never in positive light. It's always a subtle, sadistic meaning behind why he would give a holiday such like that to the African race, because he knows that it's not beneficial to the Africans to be following such a holiday. So, in retrospect, they celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday, and this is not to put the brother down, this is not to put the kin down, because he did what was best for him at that particular time, and did what was best in my eyesight that was good for the African race. But he was used by the Jewish community, and he was also used by the Caucasian community, because we know the Jews are a part of the Caucasian community, but both sides of the Caucasian played a role in his assassination and also integration, because we know that integration was one of the great things that basically brought our race down to this war. Because if you integrate a cancer within your body, guess what? That cancer will soon spread and will soon consume the life of that organism. So that's what we're witnessing today. Because we integrated with this cancerous cell of these people who've been abusing us and using us for hundreds of years. Now we're starting to feel the effects, or the after effects of the cancer basically perfecting itself. So Martin, he didn't know necessarily what he was doing by telling us to integrate with these people, but it played a very big disturbance. Now, Malcolm X, on the other hand, was not about forgiveness and mercy. He's telling us that by any means necessary, and if you slap me, I'm going to slap you back. You understand what I'm saying? And this is not to say that if the Caucasians come with high mighty army and guns and things like that, that we have to come shoot back. But the mentality has to be that we're not going to lay down and forgive this white man for these years, these hundreds of years and thousands of years of atrocities that he committed against the African race, because we're not a forgiving race. And also Malcolm, he did his best before he was assassinated by his own people, and also the collaboration of the FBI as well. So we want to honor Malcolm for his courageous efforts and for not perpetuating forgiveness and mercy, and he also taught to separate from the Caucasians. So one of the things is that this teaches separation for the African, because we have to separate in in order to solve our problems. I know many Caucasians will be against what I'm saying, but it is incumbent that they allow the Africans to figure out his own problems. We understand that America had its time to be great, but allow the Africans to also be great and to also do discoveries and things of that nature, and we can do great things again. You know, so this is one of the main reasons why I put Malcolm X's birthday up there as opposed to Martin Luther King's birthday. And this is not to put our kin down, because he's a great leader. I think that he's doing it out of goodwill of what he do, but we have to give credit where credit is due, and Malcolm deserves a lot of credit for the work that he's done for our race.
All right, we're gonna move to the next subject as we move around counterclockwise. Now you have the summer solstice, the start of the summer, June 20th to the 21st. You said it's called the birth of the sun's soul. Give us a little backdrop behind the whole science behind that. Why you chose to focus on that.
That day right there can also be called ether mass, because we understand that in the winter season, this is where they call it the ghost mass. And the ghost mass is basically when the sun goes into a perpetual scientific death. And this is what it means when the winter season is coming about. So this is basically the what you would call the death of the star. But as time goes on, we also understand that the sun also rises in the east and sets in the west. So the east side of existence is where the sun is being born again. And when it means born again, you're receiving the energies of heat again. Because anything that's alive is usually warm and hot. Anything that's dead is cold. That's why when a body is dead, you touch it, it's cold. When a body is alive, you touch it, it's warm. So the sun and the energies within nature are getting warm again. And when the sun is ready to be just hot for a period of time, this will be the birth of the sun. So this represents the birth of the sun as the summer season is coming in. This does not mean that a child is being born. It just means that now these energies are being born again and it's getting hot again. So I don't know if you want to go into the nature books and expound on that, but that's essentially what it means by the birth of the sun. It's just meaning that the summer cycle is coming around and these energies are being born again.
Matter of fact, I think I'll go into that. I think that would be alright. It says here in the Introduction to the Nature Book 2, number 380, page 256 to 257. It says, listen to reason. From the Noah saga comes the Santa Claus epic and the Noah Carol. Noah, whose proper spelling is Zodiac, originally came from the North Pole, point 9 north of existence on the smack circle of order, and became known as Sanat Kumara after the sons died. Scientific death, also called spiritual death, at point 6 west of existence. Noah, Zodiac, was originally the positive force of nature, but became the negative force of nature and started representing death and the winter of existence after the sons of nature in general died scientific death at point 6 west. Santa Claus's white hair symbolizes ghosts and snow, death and winter of existence. Santa Claus' red suit symbolizes the sixth ether sun in the bottom half of the smack circle of order, and the blood he would need to survive, And Santa Claus' bloated stomach represents the death cycle of the universes and the dead. Because when a lifeless body is left outdoors, exposed to the weather, it does swell up, especially the stomach area, denoting that body is dead and decaying. All this correct information is indeed scientific and in keeping with the laws of nature, meaning it is nature taking its proper course like the science of noon demonstrates. And the point is this: we will see that religion and its sagas and epics are deceptively based on nature and its members and parts. Santa Claus, Noah, Zodiac is from the North Pole, alright, because he used to be the positive powers of the top half of the smart circular order. But he is the negative force of nature in the bottom half now, and showers his gifts and blessings upon whomever he will. And indeed, this fate claims good luck if he does, and bad luck if he does not. Let it be remembered always, let it be known. Number 381. Listen to reason. Note that Christmas comes at the beginning of the winter season, when the sap of vegetation is dead or down, and Easter comes at the start of the warm weather season when vegetation sap begins to rise. Because these holidays were originally ancient heathen and pagan festivals and celebrations of the winter, and summer season of nature, on the long-term basis and short-term basis like yearly. Indeed, Christmas is another word for ghost mass, which means ghost mass, and another way of saying winter worship and ghost worship. For Christ is a variant of the word ghost, and ghost refers to the death of nature called winter, while Easter does mean rising of the East Star, which is our sun soul of this solar system in that short term, and stars in general in the long term of the cycles of absolute nature. The writer hopes that the reader still follows the nature pattern of religion, not only for Judaism and Christianity, but all religions in one degree or another, because, as the writer reiterates, there is nothing else to base religion upon but nature or some of its members and parts, since omnipotent nature is all persons, all places, and all things existing. Let it be remembered always, and let it be known. Number 382. Listen to reason. Now here's how the Jesus and Easter story came into being. Originally, the ancestors of the Ethiopian race personified the sun of our solar system in words as the ruler of the world, whose title was the Son of Nature. But religion, has it the Son of God. Our forerunners started with Sol, the sun, at midday or high noon, when the sun is highest in the sky and said to be on his throne. As time goes on, this mighty ruler of all persons and things condescends to earth. The astronomical symbol of planet Earth, the power symbol of orb Earth, is a circle with a cross intersecting the circle. The planet chart under the word planet in American English Dictionary, when this mighty ruler and creator of all persons and things reaches the Earth's horizon, which is the cross. He is put to death on the cross by the demons of darkness and sheds blood, the redness of sunset and the darkness of sundown, and sinks into hell and the grave of death among the devils of darkness. For being the ruler that he is, with the power of all persons and things that be, of course he has power over death and the demons of darkness, from whose grave of death and darkness he rises, sunrise, and extends back into heaven, the sky, where he always reigns. Let it be remembered always, and let it be known. Number 383. Listen to reason. Ancient barbarians, nomads, heathens, and pagans eventually personified this story about our sun's soul, not only with words, but with actual people, and this is why ancient religions, mythologies, and legends show records of more than 15 crucified saviors besides the Jesus story, and all of them older than the Jesus epic adventure. It is so that the reader should have a pretty clear picture now of how religions are secretly, clandestinely, mythologically, indirectly, and deceptively based on nature. Whereas Noon definitely does not try to hide the fact that Noon is the nature of nature in words and the way and will of almighty nature in phrases. Let it be remembered always, and let it be known. So that right there, so
gives more in depth on it now I understand. Anything you want to add on that before we move on to the next one?
I could probably read this next paragraph to let people know that this stuff was already in line before they even, come up with their calendar and stuff. So that, even though they have a Roman calendar, let me show you where the Romans get their stuff from.
All right, go ahead.
Number 384. Listen to reason. When Pope Pius the 12th died in Caucasian Christian year 1958, Daily News showed part of the place called Vatican City, which is the residence and dominion of the Pope of Rome. And this scribe was indeed surprised to see that among the building structures in Vatican City was a building known as Ethiopian College. Ethiopian College is where the Catholic cardinals go to get their higher spiritual training. This writer asks himself, why is a building known as Ethiopian College in Caucasian Vatican City? And while opening on and pondering about the answer to this question, the answer dawned upon the brain of the writer. Ethiopia and the Ethiopian race are where and from the Caucasian Vatican City got its original ethereal information, and this fact verifies further that the Ethiopian race naturally educated and cultured the whole world of people before being victimized, stigmatized, evolutionized by the negative forces of nature as persons and things evolve down to and through the moon cycle. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. So, even the Roman Catholic calendar is based upon our knowledge to a certain extent. That's why I said the days, when they switched around the months and the names of the months and things of that nature. So they basically are what you would call deviators or basically the distractors, and they basically deviate and get knowledge to confuse people. So this calendar is putting things back into perspective. The same way news put all information back into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason to be confused any longer. The truth is out and it's here now. And we as a race gotta be able to follow these constructs in order for Almighty Nature to move forward smoothly and as quickly as possible. So I wanted to read that last paragraph, because in that paragraph he lets us know that this is nothing new. These people got this knowledge from us, but they distorted the information. That's the word I was looking for, distorted. They are a distorted race. And distort means to change course. So they wanted to change the course of history in their favor. But you can't change history in your favor. Nature is going to take its course no matter what. So they can't change and they can't distort, because everything is being done the way it's supposed to be done right now. So I just wanted to add that part in, because that was an important paragraph to let people know where this information comes from, where their information comes from.
Okay. Okay, the next one definitely, I think will help and definitely get the attention of some of the Pan-Africanists and some of the RBGs. So we definitely want to...
Pan-Africanist myself. I'm in doom.
That's right. Exactly. So we definitely want you to go in a little bit at how did Marcus Garvey get his birthday on the Nodiac. See, that's a great honor. Now, how did the great
Marcus Garvey, other than Afro Unu, Marcus Garvey, in my opinion, is the second greatest liberation. I'm not even going to call him a Pan-Africanist. I'm going to call him a liberationist. The reason why is because he did so many amazing work for the African race. He did many amazing things, and he never, in my opinion, never deviated away from what he had to do. You know, he always taught the African people to go back to Africa and to build Africa again. This is one of the major goals with Nodiac. We have to be able to build Africa back to its pristine state again. Marcus Garvey had a ship lined up. I don't know if it's true or false. I didn't do my complete research on it, but from what I know is that he had ships lined up to take us back to Africa.
Yeah, he did.
We necessarily belong. Marcus Garvey had his own newspaper. Marcus Garvey had his own printing press. You know, Marcus Garvey was a businessman. You know, and he did every and anything that his will desired to get the African back to Africa. And he did such an excellent job that the Caucasian had to extradite him away from the United States of America. He basically got deported out of the United States of America. Now, when you get deported out of the United States, then I think that's a good thing, because it doesn't mean that he was committing a crime. It means that he was making significant moves in uplifting the Africans and basically getting him a knowledge of self and kind. And Marcus Garvey was the first, to my knowledge, to bring forth the red, black, and green colors and flag, which we also use on our news as the African colors for the African for the Nodiac. So Marcus Garvey is a great individual. He's even mentioned in our nature books.
Yeah, I was going to read that as well, and it's a couple of videos I heard different people. I think they may came through on Sonetta channel or whatnot that said, you know, they went into some of the teachers that taught Garvey and other people too. So I'm pretty sure as this spread out, that'll come back up as well. So we don't want to not acknowledge those who taught, who didn't get in the limelight, who influenced people like the great Marcus Garvey and whatnot. Because I remember a couple of people going in on that. But I'm going to read this from the Nature Book 2, number 340, pages 229 and part of 230. It says, Reason talks. Africa must be for the members of the African race, the Ethiopian race, those at home and those who are abroad, the same way each time that the conditions are the same. The African race, also called the Ethiopian race, was born from the source of the Nile River in equatorial Africa, and the person of our ancestors known as the flesh and blood gods and goddesses of the top half of the smack circle of order, as explained earlier in this book 2, as well as book 1 of Introduction to the Nature of Nature, written by philosopher scientist Afro Unu. Therefore, one of our past heroes of African descent, known as Marcus Garvey, declared Africa for Africans at home and abroad. Of course, he meant that the continent of Africa is the motherland and home of the Ethiopian race, who should be in control of all of Africa and its surrounding islands. And any other ethnic race on the continent of Africa is a visitor and not a permanent resident. Planet Earth is big enough for every human race to find its place on it and stay there without intruding on other ethnic races' territory. If any human race is justified in claiming a portion of orb Earth as its own, it is the African race, because our ancestors created, ruled the planet of Gaia in their 9 ether fire form. This writer predicts that after Armageddon, the climax war, which includes Point 3 South Cataclysm, each human race on all Earth will not have too much of a problem finding its proper place on this planet. Let it be remembered always and let it be known.
Number 341. Listen to reason. We must pay our respects to our physically dead heroes and heroines and other warriors of our race who fought, although we still fight mentally, spiritually, and physically to liberate the Ethiopian race from its human enemies and other adverse forces, the same way each time that conditions are the same. The African race has a long history of oppression, slavery, repression, and suppression, and all other maltreatments that can best beset and befall the human race. And now that the time for mental, spiritual, and physical liberation has come in the forms of Nupu, let's be indeed wise and follow the lead of sound right reason. Although our past heroes and heroines of the Ethiopian race did not know Nupu whom they could follow, they did the best they could with what they had to work with. And for that, we owe them recognition, respect, appreciation, and admiration as the deceased but honorable members of the African race, wherever they are entombed in orb earth. To all our demise heroes, heroines, and helpers toward liberation of the Ethiopian race, also called the black race, our deepest appreciation and respect. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. That was beautiful. Afro gave much respect to all of them. Let me see. We got one more.
Yep.
The last one I want to go into is the Stonewall Rebellion. That's on September 9th. What is the deal with that? How did that make it onto the Nodiac?
Alright, so I basically, the Stonewall Rebellion was basically a opposite to the Labor Day. Labor Day is September 5th, and basically the Stonewall Rebellion was the largest slave rebellion in America. So I needed to give honor instead of having a day called Labor Day. We'll have a day where the slaves don't go in vain for their labor. You understand? So I had to have a day represent the largest day in which there was a rebellion against labor, because we know that the American labor is slave labor. Even to this day, we're still in a form of a financial slavery to this day. So the Stonewall Rebellion was basically the slaves, and we're just upgraded slaves in this day and time, of the largest slave rebellion. So hopefully we'll, with the celebration of this day, we can have another one of those slave rebellions if we rise up against this type of capitalism, and we perpetuate a type of equalism where we can where we don't have to kill ourselves working and giving labor, where we're not allowed to rest and things like that. We need to be able to rest and do equal work and equal pay, where everybody is able to share natural resources and things of that nature. Because right now it's not working in favor of the people on earth. So that's why I chose the Stonewall Rebellion, because it was the largest slave revolt against the labor of slaves. That's why I picked that one.
All right, one more question before we conclude. Did you even consider Nat Turner, or did that just didn't come across your mind as you was adding this on?
I considered all those people, but I didn't want to because you can consider a whole bunch of people,
right,
for this Nodiac calendar. So it's not that I left him out on purpose, because he was a great individual for the African race as well. But also there's another day on here called the African Noon Liberation Day. Right. And that's basically where those that fought for our liberation liberations, the Nat Turner would fall in that category. So you have Nat Turner, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, myself, yourself, Afro. All the great leaders on African Noon Liberation Day will be honored on that day. But these particular people that I chose were specific people that changed the course of history for African people. So this is why I chose these various African liberation leaders. So it's not that I forgot Nat Turner. We can always add Nat Turner. I don't have no problem with that. You know, we can find, get his birthday, and we can add Nat Turner to this. But the largest slave rebellion was led in the Stono Rebellion, and it's not really talked about.
Right.
Nat Turner led a rebellion, but it wasn't as large as the Stono Rebellion.
Right.
So, I'm not forgetting him, but, I that's why there's an African Liberation Day for those that fought, for our freedom and our liberation.
Right.
So, we got a space for everybody. We can put Nat Turner in there as well.
Right.
We can do that too. We can pencil that in.
All right, so I think we got a whole lot covered. I didn't want to go too far. Leave a little something as far we can talk live on it, which you pretty much done jumped around the whole thing almost. But we can leave the rest for a later time because we done recorded a great bit, which I'm gonna let sit until everything else we're gonna do preceding this, and these will follow. That way people will know that we would, we have already been prepared for this. And I think that's about all I can add on that. If you have anything else you want to add.
No, man, it's time. That's what it is. It's just time. These things got to come out, and our race has to rise up again. We have to understand that new creations will come about. When the Caucasian had his civilization come up, he had his philosophers basically steal from us. His philosophers like Plato and Socrates and these guys basically led the blueprint for what we see today. And now we are seeing that the African philosophers, such as yourself, myself, and the greatest philosopher to touch the planet, Afro, basically, we are now the ones that are going to bring our culture, upon all those that are inspired by intelligence as well. So I challenge my people to bring new creations and things like that for our liberation, because we need it. This is the only way that our race will move forward, when we understand that we need new creation and different inventions to move our race forward. So it's incumbent that our race, need these new inventions and join the long list of philosophers that we have within our race. Because if the Caucasian could do it, there's a bunch of them. There's platinum, there's this person, there's that person, and they basically had a bunch of philosophers, or Greek philosophers, Roman philosophers. We all know that their philosophers aren't true philosophers, but our race has a plethora of black people that is ready to catapult us into the revolutionary cycle. So that's basically what I want to say is, let's go onward with getting our race on the map again. And I think one of the main things is this calendar is going to put us into a nice position, as well as the books. We tend to not read a lot, as black people, but we got to get back into reading. And it's important that we read these nature books and really implement it into our lives, and understand that this true culture is going to happen one way or another, as predicted by our ancients and our sages, and also our philosopher scientists, Afro-Unu. So, let's get on with it.
Right.
Let's get on.
True mental cosmic peace, Lekan, and the Ethiopian race. It's time to rise.